So this is what we're going to look at when we look at language in The Going by Thomas Hardy. There's some questions here that I'd like you to think about in terms of language. So what is this poem about? Does it have a message? What is Hardy discussing? And is there an overall theme in the poem? And we are going to look at the language that describes Emma, the language about Emma and Thomas Hardy, language about death, the repetition of why, and light, dark, and time. So, the language about Emma. The first four stanzas are very much centered on Emma. And Thomas Hardy directly talks to her using the personal pronoun you. In stanza 1, you can see he's questioning her. Why did you give no hint that you would close your term here? He's asking Emma why she didn't give him a clue that she was going to die. Stanza 2. Your great going had placed that moment and altered all. Here we have your. So he's still talking to Emma. Your death changed everything. Stanza 3. Why do you make me leave the house and think it is you I see? He's still talking to Emma here and asking her questions, asking her why she made him leave the house. And stanza 4. You were she who abode far west. Still using the personal pronoun you, and when he's talking to Emma in stanza 4. In stanza 5, the focus shifts. It moves to we. And what, as a couple, they might have said and done. Why then, latterly, did we not speak? Did we not think of those days long dead? We might have said, in this bright spring weather, we'll visit together those places that once we visited. So the first four stanzas are focused on Emma. He's talking to Emma, and there's a shift of focus in stanza 5, and it becomes we. And he's reminiscing, looking back fondly on their time together. And in the last stanza, the focus moves to Hardy, the desolate widower. Desolate is distraught, very, very unhappy, and widower is the man when his wife dies. So Hardy is very, very sad, and the last stanza focuses on him, and he's undone by his wife's sudden going. In stanzas 3 and 4, Hardy thinks he can see Emma. First he thinks, for a breath, a moment, and how ironic that actually Hardy uses the word breath, which is synonymous with life. And obviously Emma is dead, so that is ironic. For a breath, it is you I see. Thomas Hardy is imagining that he can see Emma. He thinks, and when he's thinking, he moves into the present tense to show how immediate the impression is of Emma. He thinks that he sees her at dusk at the end of the alley of bend-in boughs. And the enjambed 4 lines, enjambed is the adjective for enjambment. If you need to remind yourself what enjambment means, do so now. The enjambed 4 lines in stanza 4. Why do you make me leave the house and think for breath? It is you I see, at the end of the alley of bending boughs where so often at dusk you used to be. It is mimicking, pretending to be the bend-in bows, and it's making the reader peer through them, look through them closely, wondering if Emma can be seen. And of course, she can't, because Thomas Hardy can't really see Emma. He just wishes that he could, and this is in his imagination. So, of course, she can't be seen. Next, Hardy sees Emma in memory in stanza 4, the Emma that he first knew, way back at the beginning of their relationship. So stanza 3 is he's seeing Emma in his imagination. Stanza 4, he's seeing Emma in his memory. And he repeats the phrase, you were she who abode, you were the swan-necked one who rode. This is a beautiful and romanticized Emma in a romanticized landscape. He's thinking back fondly about her. He's put her up onto a pedestal. He has made her into a beautiful memory that perhaps wasn't quite accurate. He describes her as swan-necked, with a long and graceful neck, who rode along the beetling beanie crest, a romantic landscape. Okay, this is important, in all 4 stanzas, it's Emma who is in control. It's not Hardy. Emma has the control. She, first of all, left without giving any hint of the fact that she was going to die. Secondly, she makes Hardy leave the house in his grief. Even though he doesn't want to, he wants to stay at home and hide away. She makes him leave the house. This is her in control. Thirdly, she makes Hardy think that he can see her in the garden, in the bend-in boughs, at the end of the alley. And it is she who was riding along the cliffs, who, reigning nigh me, would muse and eye me, while Thomas Hardy was the passive one. He was the one who was being watched. She was doing the watching. And Emma and Hardy. Juxtaposed, that means next to when it doesn't fit. Juxtaposed to the memories of Emma the Beautiful, the penultimate stanza, which means second to last, considers what might have been with its repeated consecutive did we not? Did we not speak? Did we not think? What could have been, what could their relationship have been like if they tried to fix it? And it adds, did we not strive to seek that time's renewal? This stanza, the penultimate one, stanza 5, is full of verbs, full of the actions that they did not take. They did not speak, they did not think, they did not strive to seek, might have said, visit together. And the word we is repeated, followed by the phrase, we'll visit together. But of course they didn't do any of these things because they were estranged at this time. This stanza considers the togetherness that they once shared and failed to, and I'm sorry you can't read this bit here, but it says, and failed to rediscover the opportunities that they had. So it thinks back about their relationship at the beginning and throughout towards the end. They were close at the beginning and then they grew apart and they never recovered from it before Emma died. Death. There's lots of euphemisms about death used in this poem. Hardy calls the poem The Going, but he largely avoids the word death. Instead, He refers to Emma's death as, "Close your term here, up and be gone, where I could not follow. Your great going, blankness, your vanishing, such sweet fleeing." But he never actually uses the word death, dead, or die. These are all pretty ways of saying that Emma has died. He uses the word dead only twice in the whole poem. In the penultimate stanza, so stanza 5, he asks with remorse why they did not think of the happy days when they first met, those days long dead, and strive to seek that time's renewal. So he's using the word dead to describe the days, the early days of their relationship. That hope has obviously now died because Emma has died. They cannot recreate the early days of their relationship. The second time Thomas Hardy uses the word dead is in the last stanza, when he describes himself, "I seem but a dead man." This means that the emphasis of the poem is on how different everything seems without her, and altered all. Why do you think that Thomas Hardy never uses the word dead, death, or die about Emma? Well, maybe because he is in the deepest stages of grief and he doesn't want to admit quite yet that she's dead. And to use those harsh words, dead, death, and die, would make it all too real for him, too concrete. Emma has gone where Hardy could not follow. He cannot ever see her again. He can never speak to her again. He is distraught. He keeps thinking that he sees her and finds nothing but darkening dankness and yawning blankness. It's all empty without her. Life is empty. Also, the suddenness of her death is talked about. She died quickly. It was such swift fleeing, and therefore Hardy finds it difficult to come to terms with it because the death was so quick. Why is repeated at the beginning of all of the odd stanzas, so 1, 3, and 5. They all start with the word why. And throughout, Hardy questions Emma about why she died. Why did you give no hint that night that you would close your term here? Why did she never bid Hardy goodbye? Why do you make me leave the house? He's persistently asking her to answer his questions even though she can't. And at the same time, he's asking himself about why they had such an unhappy life. And why did we not speak? Okay, light, dark, and time feature prominently in the first 3 stanzas. Stanza 1 opens with the night before Emma's death, and the next morning, the day that she died. Why did you give no hint that night, that quickly after the morrow's dawn? This is talking about time, night, tomorrow, and night is also dark, and dawn is light. In stanza 2, while I saw morning harden upon the wall, your great going had place that moment. Time, time, time. In stanza 3, in darkening dankness, dark, and this is dark as well. Has Emma gone from the light of this world into the darkness of the next world? Maybe. And Hardy wants to say that time brings such unforeseen changes. It changes everything. And the time between the two of them during the relationship was not used well. Okay, now look for language that shows a sense of loss and anger and frustration, and think, why does Thomas Hardy use the language he does in this poem? What effect does it have on the poem, and on the reader.